and welcome to Photography with Imre. This is part 2 of RAW versus JPEG. Boom! Come on, it's just like, just roll the clips, right? Whatever. Let's start with some of the pros to saving your photos in JPEG format. Since these types of files are compressed, more images can be saved on a memory card. In other words, you don't have to worry as much about running out of storage space. JPEG files can be viewed by almost any image editing program and quickly, as no complex processing is required. For a quick preview, you can usually just double-click the file and it'll pop right open with a default image viewer on your system. And in some camera models, if you need high-speed sequential shooting, JPEG may be the only option, as the smaller files don't require as much time to be written to the memory card compared to the larger RAW files. As for cons, JPEG uses a lossy compression algorithm, so some image detail is lost when your photo is saved. The degree of this loss can be hardly noticeable if using a high-quality, low-compression setting, which results in a slightly larger files, to very noticeable if using a low-quality, high-compression setting, which results in smaller files. When editing a JPEG photo, you may be limited by what you can do. For example, if white balance was improperly set, color correcting the photo may not really be possible. Minor corrections are usually alright, but there's no way of going back to an original image state per se. Check out my blog for more on this. As for RAW, here are some of its pros. In terms of quality, it's the best you can get when shooting with your camera. You also have almost complete control over numerous settings even after the photo has been taken. If white balance is off, no problem, just change the setting. In general, you have the potential of using different software and demosaicing algorithms to process your image, so you can really maximize the quality out of your RAW file. And let's not forget that RAW files have more pixel data, commonly 12 or even 14 bits worth. So on a JPEG, a bright cloud might be nothing more than a white blob, but the RAW file may contain enough data to recover those highlights, so you might be able to see some structure to them. On my blog, I've written a little about dynamic range, which more or less covers this topic. But there are many cons too. RAW files are quite a bit larger than their JPEG counterparts, so unless you have huge memory cards, which are becoming fairly inexpensive, you still might have storage issues. And unlike JPEG, RAW files must be processed before you can view them. Some photographers may find this extra time to their workflows prohibitive. Also, there isn't yet a single accepted standard for RAW files. Pretty much every manufacturer and even camera model has its own format. So if you just got a new camera, then you may not be able to open your RAW files with your favorite image editor until the developer releases an update. And now it's time to reveal who is the winner in our battle of the file formats, RAW or JPEG. And the winner is, well, there isn't really one, because it depends on exactly who you are, your personal feelings with shooting RAW or shooting JPEG, what your workflow is. Maybe you're already kind of a budding professional photographer and your client says, I need super high quality or I need something quick. So there's really no right answer here. And I can give you a couple of pointers, and there's definitely lots of resources on the web. Definitely go online, do a search, and you can look up what other people have said about this as well. For example, if you do need extra high quality, for example, you have a 10 or 12 megapixel camera, but you print large, you're upsampling to 2 by 3 foot posters, let's say, then yeah, shooting RAW, it'll get you that extra little edge. Or if you're in tough circumstances, you're shooting landscapes and white puffy clouds, a lot of contrast, there's dark scenery, you're going to get a little bit of edge using RAW there again. On the other hand, there are cases where you might need just JPEG. JPEG would work fine for you. The one thing to keep in mind is get your exposure as correct as you can, because as you saw in the video, if you're too far off, JPEG does have its limitations. There is room though, so you do always have the ability to go in there, edit your shots and so on and so forth, but You do have to be careful, but I've read articles where there are professional wedding photographers, for example, and they shoot JPEG. They use, something like an expo disc to get their white balance correct, and they're really careful with their exposure. They take test shots, and they just use JPEG because it's really quick to work with. And in weddings, you can have, several hundred photos, and RAW can get a little bit sluggish if you're, trying to look through that many photos. Actually, that's one of the things I've encountered too when I've gone off, and I shoot, of course, mostly landscape stuff. I shoot about 200, 300, 400 shots, sometimes even a bit more if I'm getting overzealous, but that's a lot of shots to look through, and RAW really is a little sluggish. I still haven't yet found a really quick RAW viewer. I've always just have to open them one by one, and they're a bit slow, but there's a tactic that I have used, and it works really well, and most cameras do allow you to do this. You can shoot RAW, and it saves in JPEG as well. And you can save at the maximum quality JPEG where you get, if you're shooting 10 megapixels, you'll get a 10 megapixel JPEG file. And there are also settings for RAW as well as JPEG, but you can have the JPEG at like a 1 or 2 megapixel size where it's really compressed, and it works great because you have the high quality file, but you have these tiny JPEG files, and you can quickly run through them, kind of like thumbnails, but they work a little bit better, a little bit more detail so you can see the image. So really, no right answer to this. It's knowing the pros and cons of each, and your constraints, your limitations, what you're working with, and even your personal preferences. If you're like me, I'm the tinkering type. I do like RAW. I like playing with all those settings, and you're really getting the most out of the picture, and I just like playing with it, and that's just the way it works. But sometimes people don't have the time to do that, so there's your choice. And I will write more in my blog as usual, and I'll have some more links. Actually, I already posted one post here. This video is kind of eerie because you've already kind of seen one part, and I'm actually saying things that have happened, but this is just the other video. Never mind, time travel. So if definitely check out the blog there, and I'll have some more links. Hopefully I'll find some more for other articles related to this topic. So as usual, definitely check out my blog because I always have a supplemental post there, and this episode in particular has a lot of links to websites that really detail the topic because, we just kind of scratched the surface here, and it's a lot of fun to find out more about, what a color space is or what those tone curves are and things like that. So do check me out there, and on my blog you'll also find links to my Facebook page for binary graphite as well as Twitter as well. And do subscribe to stay up to date to other episodes and other videos and stuff like that I come up with. So thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.